Vampire Hunter D, set in a distant future where monsters roam the earth. Here we find a small town living under the threat of random attacks from these monsters that are commanded by a very powerful vampire. In the beginning of this movie, we find a girl who's fighting off these monsters when she encounters a vampire who bites her, then she hires a vampire hunter to kill this vampire before she transforms. I admit, it's a very basic plot, but it's one of my favorite anime classics, and it's like a rite of passage for any anime fan. What I love about this movie is its gritty art style. It takes you into this cyberpunk-themed town, where it looks and feels like it should be a western, but it's not. They have laser rifles, they have mechanical horses, and other machines. And talking about monsters, there's such a wide variety of them in this movie, from vampires to werewolves, snake women, giants, and all other sorts of original creatures just in this movie. As for our main character D, he's a half-blood vampire hunter who is one of my favorite vampires of all time, bridging outside of anime across all other mediums. He is a complete badass. He's got this big hat and this giant cape and this sword with a blade the length of his body. Nothing really faces him because he has the experience of thousands of battles behind him, and really there's nothing that can compare to that. Now, while I love this movie, there is some pacing issues. They space out the content to make this movie an hour and 20 minutes long, and when you read the manga counterpart of this, it was only a few chapters, and while this is a pretty fair comparison to the manga, despite a few minor differences with it, I think that they did a pretty good job of this, but they could have shaved it down to maybe about an hour, if not a little bit less than that. While it is necessary for a movie to have many other characters to make it feel natural, I feel that one major problem in this movie is that there are too many irrelevant characters given too much screen time and too much dialogue. Aside from that, I felt that it was redundant for Doors to get captured, get saved, and then get captured again, sending D into the castle 2 different times when they could have focused the bulk of this movie on D just going through this castle to save her that first time, and just fighting hordes of monsters in the process, which is probably what we want to see out of this movie, right? Not saying that I dislike the story, but there's definitely room for improvement. The first time that I ever watched Vampire Hunter D ages ago, I enjoyed some of the characters, I enjoyed the interaction between D and Doors, but now that I've seen this movie countless times, I always come back to it and enjoy it because of its art style, because of its music, it's definitely got a great soundtrack, because of its themes, and because of its fights. When D fights some of the antagonists in the movie, they give him just a little bit of a challenge, and it really feels to me like he's just throwing him a bone just because he knows he's so powerful. He's just standing there so nonchalant as they have the upper hand in battle occasionally, and it's like he doesn't even care because he knows he's gonna beat him eventually. I don't think that's a weak point in this movie. I think that's just them staying true to the source material, because D cannot be bested by such lowly of fiends because he has hundreds of years of battle experience with him and others cannot compare. As for the overall presentation, this movie came out in 1985, but what's so special about this is that it was a low-budget title, meaning that they didn't have enough money to go as far as all of the other movies out there, so this looks more like an anime series, an episode from an anime series at that time, instead of what you would find from anime movies around that same time. A pretty poor comparison is Akira, which came out about 3 years later, which had a massive budget, comparing that to Vampire Hunter D, which of course came out 3 years beforehand, but had a very small budget. With Vampire Hunter D, the beauty isn't in the animation, but it's in the art style itself, with each individual frame, just because of how dark everything looks and the atmosphere that it gives off, the detail that they put into the monsters and to the fights with their eyeballs popping out and guts and blood squirting all over the place. By the way, it's definitely a mature movie. Now, for the audio quality, this movie has a beautiful soundtrack. It features this very dark, moody orchestral theme, and it also has, for its voice acting, it has sub and dub, and usually for movies like this, I would like to recommend the English dub to it just because it's such a basic plot. You don't really get anything else extra out of watching the original Japanese audio just because it's such a simple plot, and that's usually what people look for the original audio for, is that depth of emotion and, you know, just better voice actors usually. But with this movie, I would recommend you to watch the original. Watch it with the original Japanese voice acting just because they actually reworked their version of it. So not only do the voices sound better, not talking about acting quality or anything like that, which was pretty good, I'm talking about background music, sound effects, everything, because they reworked it, as where the English version, they have that original version from the first time ever that Vampire Hunter D came to the States, and they dubbed it then. So it does sound of very poor quality, not talking about the acting again, but just with the instruments, the sounds itself. It's very washed out, so I recommend watching this movie with the Japanese audio. So to give this movie an overall score, I've got to put aside my subjective fanboy feelings about this, and also I've got to put aside any negativity that I have about how this movie aged, because while it may not have aged the best, it's still something that really stood out in its time, and also they did a very good job considering they had a very low budget. I give Vampire Hunter D an 8 out of 10. To me, Vampire Hunter D is a timeless classic that I can enjoy rewatching for years to come. If you've seen Vampire Hunter D, then let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below, whether it's the movie, the sequel to this, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which is also really awesome and much better animation, whether it's the manga or the books as well. Let me know your thoughts about all of that and how they compare in the comment section below. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, comment, like it, and also share with your friends if you want. Thank you for watching. I'll see you later.